to the Anderson Law Power Hour with this guy right here, sharp attorney Tim Anderson. Not in the studio where we used to do the applause. So
I know we should have one of those applause buttons. So
yeah. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the author and guest. This podcast, always realize it's for informational purposes only, constitute legal advice. Also, there's no attorney-client privilege. Feel free to ask your question or comment on Facebook. Legal consultation services will be determined at the time of your appointment here at Anderson Law. Anderson Law is a firm located at 2492 North Landing Road, Suite 104, here in Virginia Beach. Online, as you probably already discovered, virginialawoffice.com, virginialawoffice.com. The number 757-800-1000, 757-800-1000. I'm Mark Rollison, learning just as much as you are. And man, this is a goosebump, exciting time, don't you think? Woo! Man, Virginia Beach said yes to a constitutional city. Yeah. That's exciting. Wow. It's happening.
You know, last night when I was at the beach meeting, the speech that I gave is Virginia Beach is already a constitutional city.
Yeah, that's right. I was reading.
I mean, we're all part of the United States Constitution.
Yes, sir.
We are all part of the structure of the federal government, the state government, the city government. It's all part of that. And what I said to the legislature, to council people yesterday, is I said, hey, why aren't you willing to sign just a resolution that says you support the Constitution?
Yes, that's
because of course you support the Constitution.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a issue of you're pro-gun or anti-gun or pro this or pro that. It's simply saying that a message to the legislatures in Richmond that the largest city in Virginia that had the worst mass shooting ever still is saying, everybody take a deep breath here before you start making more gun laws. Right, that's what it was saying. And
yes, I know.
And we had four council members who still voted no. Now we really had 5 because Mr. Tower, Councilman Tower, wrote a letter. He wasn't there last night, and he wrote a letter and said he did not support this resolution. Okay. So the vote ended up being 6-4, right? So, you know, a lot of you are you know, kind of frustrated with that, and, you know, like who's the what do we do about these people that voted no? Well, one of the people who voted no, her name is Councilwoman Wooten.
Yes, I saw, yeah.
All right. So Councilwoman Wooten, here's her story. So 4 years ago, Bobby Dyer became the mayor of Virginia Beach, or excuse me, he was a councilman in Virginia Beach from the Centerville district. And then 2 years into his term, he became the mayor. And when that happened, his seat was open, and Miss Wooten came in and won on a special election. So she's only been on the council for now 2 years, and she's up for re-election this year. So this is a perfect opportunity that if we feel like Councilwoman Wooten did not represent our interests last night, or you know, this is something where people could start thinking about that when it comes to the ballot box this year, right? I mean, that's how you take your government back. You find people that you don't agree with and that they don't agree with you that are in these leadership positions, these elected positions, and you vote them out. And so if you're unhappy with how Councilwoman Wooten voted yesterday, then she's up for election in November. Now, the other ones are up for election next year, and then some are not until 3 more years from now. But the idea is that we have to keep track of the people that vote and how they vote, and then we have to find other candidates if we don't like what they're doing.
Yes, sir. If I'm not mistaken, didn't mean to interrupt, I think she said there need to be more study on her behalf.
Yeah.
If I got that correct, right?
Yeah, so, hey, Mark, we got somebody asking if you're the guy from the Nationwide commercial.
I want some of those jobs so bad. No, I'm not Dennis Haysbert. I'm just average every guy locally. I get that often. Or they say, are you remember that homeless guy? No, well, maybe I'll get that fame through this guy. Give him credit. Thanks for the comment.
So a little bit about Mark and me. We started a radio show on the AM dial about March of 2019.
Yes.
And we ran every Saturday for a good part of 2019. And then we transitioned over here to a Facebook Live thing, because basically the thing is that the Facebook feed was eclipsing the radio side.
In every way, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Man, you might make some trades, you know that? You might make industry trades.
It was one of those things where it just made sense to actually peel off of the radio and just go straight to Facebook. And now that we've been talking about guns and the Second Amendment and talking about how the laws are changing, I think I would bet that there's probably not a radio station in Hampton Roads that competes with the audience that watches just this show. I mean, we got 1.4 million watching the videos.
Well stated, sir. That's factual. That's exact, right?
So that's Mark Rawlison. He is a radio personality and has been in Hampton Roads for a long time. Yep. You might say he has the face for radio. Right?
Okay. Hey, okay, that's good. I get the joke. It's all right.
So that's how Mark and I have connected.
Right. That's cool.
All right. So let's kind of bring everybody up to speed where we are. So Virginia Beach became a constitutional city resolution last night, which again has no merit, no value, other than just simply a message to the folks in Richmond that we're concerned about overreaching gun laws as a community. Now, the next thing that happens tonight in Virginia Beach is that Councilwoman Wooten, the same one that voted against it last night, is pushing a resolution that says that the city should be able to make its own gun laws related to its own local buildings. And, so basically she is obviously in favor of gun-free zones, in governmental buildings.
I see. Okay.
So that's coming on for tonight, and so I'm going to be speaking tonight at that. I'll be live streaming that. I don't think it's going to be nearly the crowd that happened last evening, but it is super important that if you have time to be at the Virginia Beach council meeting tonight is definitely a night you want to be there.
Right.
And that's it. Yeah. People are commenting on your radio voice, Mark. So he does have that. I mean, he walks in and we're like, and it doesn't turn off. This isn't just his. This is his just regular baritone voice.
We're live or Memorex. I'm live all the time.
Right. So we want to in Virginia Beach tonight. It's important. This is part 2, and this again is Miss Wooten who's pushing this forward. And we want to make sure that there is some accountability. That we don't want them to declare a constitutional city today and then be able to tell the legislature we want to have gun-free zones the next day. Right. So we want to keep them consistent. Yeah. So
and that study, I mean, I know there are organizations, didn't mean to cut you off, but there's another group, consultants who are still studying the Virginia Beach courthouse, the Virginia Beach shooting back on May, and they are still digging into this, and they now are going to go back to see where the chain of command broke down, so to speak, where Crawford, I think it was, what it was his relationship with the employers and the supervisors and so forth. And when we first started talking about this, what did I say? I think that was a human resources issue. Subsequently, with the lack of ability for Miss Nixon to be able to take her weapon to work that day.
Sure.
So those were issues that I think are important, but the evidence of what you're leading us to understand, what our listeners are saying, just imagine if she was able to.
Sure.
Just imagine if that contractor was able to, and this is very we have to be very candid, but we're going to talk about this because we know when an assailant or someone who has a weapon is there and there's no counteraction and they feel that they can get away with it, they just go crazy. But when force meets force, as in Texas,
right.
What do? I'm trying to find the right words to say it. They commit the final act.
Sure.
So look what could have happened if the contractor and Miss Nixon would have been able to return fire.
Absolutely. I mean, it would have, even if she had missed, it would have been a big loud noise. And
good point. Yes, sir.
Woken up the building.
Yeah.
A lot of people said they didn't understand what was happening. It sounded like a nail gun because the guy had a silencer on his firearm, and it had somebody shot back. One shot. A gunshot. And when that happened, it would have evacuated that building super quick.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows what would have happened? But I have to truly believe that if Virginia Beach's policy on not letting the employees bring firearms into the buildings, if that policy did not exist, we would have had a different outcome. I think Craddock probably would have shot up the place, but I would be suspicious if so many people would have died.
Yeah.
And so we have to identify the elephant in the room that gun-free zones are not safe zones. They're not.
That's right,
They're not zones where people are safe.
The law-abiding citizens, they will, but the individual page on a suicidal mission like this, they're going to ignore the law. As we've been saying, it's not the good guys, it's always the bad guys.
Right, right. So the governor today introduced his legislative agenda. Now, if you've been following my videos for more than one day, you would have known pretty quickly what the governor's legislative agenda has been. So his agenda is out. I've posted that here to the Facebook wall. And, when we're talking about what his agenda is, what we are looking for is, the keywords of what his priorities are, okay? And I'm just kind of scrolling down here. So, passing the Equal Rights Amendment, restoring women's reproductive rights, expanding affordable housing, banning housing and discrimination issues, raising the minimum wage, making voting easier, reforming criminal justice, advancing gun safety measures, fighting climate change, and increasing education funding and expanding transient and broadband internet. Okay, so these are his agendas. Okay, now you've been watching my videos, most of you, for a long time. Let me tell you how he's going to accomplish all of these in the 2020 session. Okay. 2020, passing the Equal Rights Amendment. All right. So basically, what that is going to do is that is going to allow men to go into women's bathrooms. All right, that's essentially what we have here. Right. A guy who identifies himself as a female is going to be able to go into a female bathroom and use the bathroom, so long as he identifies himself with that. Now, look, before I go any further, I am in no mood to discriminate against anybody. Okay, if you are one way or the other, that is white, black, brown, green, female, male, transgender. I'm not in any mood to discriminate against anybody, okay? But when you see something like passing the Equal Rights Amendment, that sounds cool.
Yeah, right.
That sounds Martin Luther King-ish, right?
Yeah, mass appeal kind of thing.
But what it's really doing here is it is trampling on rights of other people, is what it's doing.
Yes, sir. Yeah, right.
What if I'm, the cake maker, and I'm a religious guy,
remember that,
and I don't want to make a cake for a particular, a homosexual couple? I'll get sued, right? Now, the Supreme Court ruled that a private business has the right to refuse service on its religious beliefs. But look, here's the thing. Here's why we don't need the Equal Rights Amendment. Because if I came out and I said, I don't want to represent gay people ever again in my practice, right? That's my deal. Oh, and by the way, I'm the first lawyer who ever filed a same-sex bankruptcy in Virginia before it was even legal. I filed that bankruptcy for that same-sex couple. Yeah. All right, so so don't think that I'm in any way against anything like that. But if I just said that, I'm not going to represent homosexual couples ever again. You know what would happen to me? I would be shamed.
Right.
I would be shamed publicly.
Right.
The internet would take care of that. The word would get out, and a lot of people wouldn't do business with me. If I'm a cake maker and I don't want to make cakes for a homosexual couple, let the freedom of speech happen and let them be shamed by the public, right? And
by forcing you to do something against your own personal beliefs and practices.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, so no, you don't. We're not going to force them. You don't have to make the cake, but let the public react to that. Well, this guy's not making a cake, and I don't know if I want to do business with this guy. Let the free market respond to that, right?
There we go. Yeah, free market. I remember that. Yeah,
because the free market decides that. If I said I'm not going to represent, women in a divorce, okay, which some lawyers do that. That's their thing. Let the free market decide if that's the kind of person that you want to deal with, right? And it's just how the businesses are. The free market will respond. If they don't like what your positions are, and you're going to go out of business. People aren't going to do business with you. We don't need that. All right, so let's go to reproductive rights. So last year, Delegate Tran tried to produce a bill that basically allowed what's called pre-birth abortion.
I know. Isn't it cool?
All right.
Yeah.
So this is a situation moments before a live birth where a woman could make a decision to terminate that baby's life.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, this is not a situation where the baby's super sick or the mother would be in danger. This is a situation where it could be terminated. Now, you have a baby that's viable after about 6 months.
Right.
So when that baby comes out, the doctor has to kill the baby. Okay, you have to break its neck or do something. You have to kill that baby, all right, to be able to abort it. And so, if in a situation involving a second or third trimester abortion, the law says that 2 doctors have to make a decision that this would be dangerous to the mother, mother's health and safety. Now, look, if a mother may die to make a baby be born, that's a different scenario because we're talking about one life for another. And if 2 doctors agree that this could cause the woman to die, you shouldn't have to make her do that. But at some point, the state has to step in and say, hey, come on. Look, we're not going to let you murder a child, a viable child,
right.
At this point. And so what they've done here with the the Women's Reproductive Rights Bill is they're putting abortion into the Virginia Constitution, and that says without any infringement, okay? And so when that becomes a constitutional amendment, because when people see it on the ballot, they'll be like, yeah, of course I'm for restoring women's reproductive rights. Of course I'm for that. We want women to be able to have their own rights. What it is, it's a backdoor as a pretext to allow such things as pre-birth abortions.
Yeah.
And that is sick, okay? That is sick. That is as sick as me saying anybody should be able to buy a gun, okay? Because clearly not everybody should be able to have a gun, right? Somebody who has a serious mental health issue should not be allowed to have a gun, all right? And somebody who is 8 months pregnant should not be allowed to get an abortion unless there's some kind of extreme, unusual circumstance. So that's that one. Expanding affordable housing. We talked about that.
Yeah. Can I go back to that? Sure. As I was reading that, the words maintain autonomy in that HB when it comes to the reproductive rights. That's like you said, it's a nice phrase meaning. What?
Well, it means that it would mean that abortion is a constitutional right, just like freedom of speech. And you can't infringe on abortion with any laws once it becomes a constitutional right, unless it is something that there's a compelling interest to do so.
Okay.
And that's important to know, right? Now look, abortion is already a constitutional right. The Supreme Court carved it into the U.S. Constitution by the Roe versus Wade decision. But to put it in the Virginia Constitution would basically make it illegal to pass any kind of real regulation about abortion, any kind of reasonable restrictions. Look, we have reasonable restrictions on guns.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
We have reasonable restrictions on guns. We have reasonable restrictions on abortion. That's how a society operates. There are laws, there are restrictions, there are things that we all have to do that we live in this society. And just to tell somebody they can go out and buy a gun no matter what their mental health is, that's as insane as telling an 8-month-old a woman with an 8-month child that she can abort her live child, abort her pre-birth child. It's insane. All right. Expanding affordable housing. We talked about that. Okay, so that's where they want to be able to let your neighbor knock down their house, a single family zone, and put a multifamily property on your lot, on the lot next door to you. So that decreases the value of your house, because now instead of a single family zone neighborhood, you have a mixed use family zone. And less people are going to want to live there because they want to live in single family zoned areas, the ones that can afford to. And so basically they're going to depress the value of people who live in a neighborhood to allow other people to come in. That's called socialism. You said that clearly and succinctly, And you mentioned the property values. I'm thinking about the tax base. That's going to add more headaches. And in real life, those who have the higher value properties are going to end up paying more. Right. More, no matter how you look at it. That's right. That's right. And so, you work hard and you get things. That's how our society works.
That's right.
You work hard, you go to school, you take steps, and you get to have a life that might be better than somebody who didn't work hard. That's what capitalism is all about. That's why I have a law office. That's why I take the risks of opening these doors every day. If I could live in the exact same neighborhood that I live in, and all I had to do was drive a bus for a living, no offense to people who drive a bus, but if that's all I had to do, then I would drive a bus for a living, right? Why take on the extra risk of trying to work hard? All right. Banning housing and employment discrimination. I mean, come on. Does that really exist anymore? I mean, is there really discrimination like that anymore? There are laws in the books. There's all kinds of federal laws. If I were to tell somebody, I'm not going to rent to you, Mark, because the color of your skin.
Right.
You could sue the hell out of me for that.
That's already there. Yeah.
I mean, so come on. What are we doing here? We're talking about a problem that doesn't exist, or if it does exist, it's already covered under federal rules. So we don't need the state to come in and waste time on this. Raising the minimum wage.
Right. We've talked about that before.
Okay. So here's a basic equation for raising the minimum wage.
Right.
Here's why you pay what you pay for at McDonald's for a sandwich. They take what their costs are, they add what their profits are, and that becomes the price. Okay? So in their costs are the food costs and materials and overhead,
wages,
and labor.
Yes,
Okay?
right.
So at labor, when you are making that labor price go up, then what's going to happen is that if the cost of the business go up, and the profit stays the same, then the price is going to increase. So when we give people, especially lower earners, more money, it hurts them the worst because the commodity prices will rise. And so they'll make $200 more a month, right? But eggs are going to cost more. Bills. It just will increase commodity prices down the road. And frankly, as a parent of a teenager, should my teenager on their first job be able to make $14 an hour? That's crazy. They live at home. What are they going to do with $14 an hour working at Sonic? I mean, come on. This is living minimum wage is supposed to be here, but that's not doesn't mean livable wage. It just means this is the threshold minimum of what an employer can pay.
Right.
And when you raise prices on places, their wages on places, they're going to do two things. One, they're going to find computers to do the job. Lately,
yes, I have.
You order on a computer now.
I'm not too crazy about it, but it's like, okay.
And you keep raising prices, and then they're going to find a way, and they already have it, ways to make people cook the food in the back that are machines. And that is just what's going to happen. So you're going to cause unemployment in the lower end sector, and the people that get to keep their jobs are going to have to pay more for their commodities. It doesn't take much to really think about this stuff. Making voting easier.
Oh my, we talked about that. And I've just been playing devil's advocate, making voting easier, and the ID issue. I've been racking my brain. Who doesn't need today? I remember my dad talking about that way back off a base. You always had to have some ID so you could know who you are if you got stopped by the police.
The issue is repealing the voter ID law, right? To be able to vote. That's what this is. Is there a segment of society that simply just can't